Angelo, my man.
Hey, what's up, Corey?
How are you, dude?
Good.
Thanks for, I know we've been trying to get this on the calendar for a while.
Yeah, finally.
I know that I've seen your stuff on social media, right? And so obviously we're all trying to get after it and add value to our audience and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to have a casual conversation as we just kind of discussed off camera here, but tell everybody like where they can find you, you know, like what if they're looking for Angelo and looking for his content.
Oh, I'm Angelo Dickens. I'm pretty easy to find. Like on Instagram, it's ABA Estates, or you can just type in my name. The ABA came from the acronym of my wife, my son, and myself. So Angelo Blake is my son, and my wife is Amber. So ABA. All right. So I created like a LLC. Just for the acronym, and I just kind of went by it on social media. Primarily on like Instagram and Facebook, and on LinkedIn, I'm just under my name. Cool. And I have a YouTube page, and it's just called Angelo Dickens.
Awesome. Yeah. And you, we were talking about it before, but you do some interviews with your people in your community because you're working mainly out of Long Beach. Yeah.
So when COVID happened, up until that point, I was kind of doing like events just to kind of get my name out there as an agent and kind of build like a brand. But when COVID happened, obviously kind of things kind of shut down. So I think in 2020, I tried to pivot by like essentially kind of creating events through your screen. Yeah. So I said, well, how do I keep networking and highlighting people? So I said, well, you know, maybe I can interview other entrepreneurs. And so that's how it started initially. And then just along the way, I found other, you know, interesting people that might not necessarily have been business owners, but just were, you know, kind of worth highlighting. Or people would ask me along the way, hey, can you interview this person? So I think so far I've gotten up to, I want to say it's like 65 episodes total.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's been like, you know, over the course of like 5 years. Yeah. So, you know, as time has gone by, starting last year, it kind of slowed down a little bit. I wasn't interviewing as many people, but it's definitely something I'm so interested in.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I think we were talking about this where it's amazing to see the progress between like the first episode of something. Yeah. Because we've been doing social media stuff since we started. Mm-hmm. That was our main form of starting to market ourselves. Yeah. And like not only like the quality, but like how your cadence is and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of funny how you get into a flow. Yeah. And like I'm sure in 5 years from now we're all gonna look back and be like, man, could you believe we said that? Or but no, it's cool, man. I think the first time I came across you was social media and watching one of your interviews. Yeah. So this was before we even met each other. Yeah, and then sometimes with a particular person or a business, I would actually kind of create like a highlight reel. So I would go on set if they had a restaurant or I'll take a restaurant for example. I would go to a restaurant, sit down with them in like their setting, and then also I would incorporate like B-roll. So you know, but it wasn't like that for each person. But that was kind of a way to start kind of doing spinoffs. Well, I think a great thing too for real estate agents specifically is like highlighting the local community. And all the great organizations, right? I think and it's good for anybody, but I've seen real estate agents kind of get into that mode, and I just think it's highlighting the specific community that you're working in. It's highlighting the people that you like being around that you feel are important. I think I guess like the hardest part about building content is one being, and I hate to throw out this word because it's cliche, but authentic. You know, whatever that means to whoever that is, but. Ultimately, we're trying to work with people that we like, right? I mean, we'll work with anybody, but it's so much more enjoyable when you get an opportunity to create a relationship and be like, oh man, that's a nice person. Like, and highlight that for other people to see because not everybody's savvy with social media. Not everybody has an interest in being in it. I know I have a love-hate relationship with it also. Yeah. But you always, as a business owner, as somebody who runs their own type of program, it's important for people to at least feel like you're out there all the time.
Yeah, I remember one year, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I had my son interview me.
Yeah?
So I switched seats with him, and he kind of took the host kind of like, you know, lead role.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
How old is he?
He's 11 now. I think when he interviewed me, I want to say he was like 6, maybe 7.
That's great. Yeah. That's a great idea, actually. I got to tell Brad about that. I think we should totally do that. That would be so much fun.
He asked me the same questions I would ask someone else.
Yeah? Yeah? Oh, that's cool. I think I'm going to actually bite that idea for sure. That'd be really hilarious to see my daughter who's almost 7 and my son particularly who's 4.5. Okay. If they were trying to ask me some questions about stuff. And
my wife was, she had some signs. Yeah. Kind of like behind the camera, and he was reading it, so he kind of knew what to like ask me.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. I love that idea. We were introduced by somebody that we both know.
Frank Magliano.
Frank Magliano. And I was introduced to Frank because a good buddy of mine in Brea, John Eckno Insurance Services, is a good buddy of mine from the city of Brea and family friends and stuff like that. And went to a brewery to hang out for a birthday party or something. And I ran into Frank, and Frank's a great guy. Frank's one of those guys that no matter how long or short it's been since the last time I talked to him, he and I have a great conversation.
Yeah.
And like that goes back to like just wanted to work and be associated with people that you enjoy doing business with.
Yeah.
So then we were introduced, and then I did my little speech at the Real Estate Association, Cal State Fullerton, and I loved it because like I'm going into a college campus, and Angelo hit me up and goes, "Hey man, is this open? Like I just want to come and see what's going on."
Yeah.
So you obviously, I'm glad that you showed up too, because you know now we're here
And that was our first time meeting in person.
in person, right?
Yeah.
Which is amazing. You know, that's the power of social media. For all the things that people say and that I say myself about how it's not necessarily a great thing. This is an example of why it is.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming out. I know it's a little bit of a drive. And,
That's okay. The traffic was a breeze.
So, you know, there's just regular conversation about real estate. You know, I think ultimately I always enjoy the perspective of real estate agents who may or may not have experience with private money and what we do, because we get the question all the time, right?
Yeah.
When we're in our space, like, why would one ever use hard money? You know, and that's from people who have been in the real estate space for decades,
Yeah.
right? This is something that they don't necessarily see as a viable option, and we can explain to them like, hey, investor based and so on and so forth. But you know, what is, I guess, your interest in that side of the business, because you're mainly working with homeowners,
Yeah.
mainly working with buyers and sellers, and so I guess what piques your interest on the private money side of things when you're talking about real estate?
I think there was two things. The more I've gotten to know Frank, because
Yeah.
of the nature of what he does for work,
Yeah.
primarily doing like flip projects. You know, I've done a lot of open houses for him, and I just kind of like learned like the concept of how they structure their deals and acquisitions and
Right.
exits. But I've never like gotten into the nuts and bolts of it. And then also there was another aspect of hard money, which was like bridge loan financing. So I think as an agent, I may come across people out in the field where, you know, maybe a bridge loan, they're looking to
Right.
Buy another property without having to sell their primary, just to kind of make it a little bit easier, because that process can be kind of stressful and hard at times. But the other one is, you know, I would love to like, you know, whether I want to flip a home or help somebody, you know, pitch them an opportunity and be able to say, okay, I know a guy that can help you with, you know, financing the acquisition, the rehab, and this is how hard money works in general. I think that's primarily what I'm interested in.
Cool.
Is because I'm always trying to find relationships. Is like if I come across a great, you know, deal, how can I get this person to buy this fixer-upper, and how can they actually do it? So
Yeah, it's interesting because it's people who have a ton of experience and all uber successful in real estate on the agent side sometimes just don't. You know, I have a friend or associate in my Brea Rotary Club who, unbelievable agent, unbelievably active, but he just has. I don't think he has an interest in the investment side.
Okay.
And like it's funny because like I'm sitting on that side of the chair or the desk, and I think to myself like he must see so many opportunities. But his thought is, I'm going to focus on what I want to focus on. This is where I'm successful.
Yeah.
This is how I service my clients, and it's turned out to be fantastic, right?
because I think even as agents, like sometimes we kind of are in the know,
exactly.
and sometimes we may kind of see that needle in the haystack, and it's like, well, if you feel like you have the confidence and the backing behind you, maybe you take yourself up on the opportunity as opposed to always pitching it out. So that's also why I want to learn about it too, is just in case I come across something.
I mean, it's kind of a natural transition too, because I think what we've noticed, at least from my time of being in this business, is there are two major client types that have kind of transitioned into successful real estate investors. A lot of real estate investors who have been successful just kind of saying that I'm going to invest. Yeah. But one of them would be real estate agents, because like you said, you're talking to sellers. That's your job. You're talking to sellers, you're talking to buyers, but you can identify opportunities probably before other people. The other part about being an agent is like every listing appointment, you're putting together some sort of presentation, whether it's actual documentation or it's just a conversation with somebody about the value of a home. And valuing a property is, I wouldn't call it rocket science, but at the same point in time, not too many people can do it as well as somebody who does it every day.
Yeah.
And real estate agents do that. The other side of it, the other type of clientele that really has moved into the investing side would be like general contractors.
Yeah.
Because it's a similar situation, right? As an agent who is helping source a deal for a real estate investor, and then you go, well, how come I can't, do this for myself? A general contractor goes in and puts bids together for that same investment property, and they're probably making a decent amount of money on that, but they're looking at it going like, I know my cost for that project. So what if I just got my hands on the project?
And I got my license and bought it myself.
Yeah. And so now I can actually do the work. I got the crews. I got the business to do that. I just need to find the opportunity.
The other part of it is sometimes, I may walk into somebody's house or an appointment and I want to say, hey, I think you're leaving some money on the table. Maybe you could kind of fix this property up.
Yeah.
And actually get some more money out of it. Some people don't always want to do that, but just being able to have that option to present it.
And I think that's where, a perfect transition into the consumer bridge loan that you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
So we are unbelievably excited to be able to offer it. It's an NMLS product, right? Mm-hmm. And so the end of last year, we got the company NMLS primarily for this opportunity because NMLS is pretty strict on the regulations and whatnot.
Okay.
It's a consumer loan. And when people would approach us, agents and friends, saying, hey, can you do a hard money loan or a private loan to help my client buy a new place? The answer was always no, but we have somebody who can, right? And we would refer it out. And then we did that probably a half dozen times last year.
Okay.
And every time that deal would close, our referral source would call us and be like, hey, man, do you guys have your NMLS yet? And we're like, no. He's like, you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
And sure as shit, the next time again, hey, man, you got your NMLS license? No, you're leaving money on the table. Yeah. So we're excited to kind of get that off the ground. The idea behind it is effectively – we're not necessarily in the most aggressive buyer's market. It's kind of tipping in that direction a little bit more, but sellers are still pretty stubborn, rightfully so. They don't necessarily need to move or anything like that. But one thing that we see is hugely valuable is if you own your primary residence right now and you want to buy a new one, you right now have to sometimes write an offer that's contingent on the sale of your current residence.
Yeah.
Because a bank has debt to income ratios and ability to repay rules and a lot of stuff that is rightfully in place for long-term loans. But it's hard to qualify for both properties if you don't want to sell your home right away. So the consumer bridge product really breaks it down in a very vanilla situation. We can do a loan that either helps you acquire your purchase property. It's an 11-month interest-only loan.
Okay.
It's key that it's in 11 months because anything less than 12 months allows you to be to kind of avoid having to factor in ability to repay and debt to income ratios. It's a lower loan to value. Typically, we're hovering around like 60% of the value of the property. And so now the question becomes like, hey, I was trying to buy a property with 20% down. I only have 20% down. How do I make this 60% loan to value purchase option work? That comes to now the exiting property. Mm-hmm. So the exiting property, if you have lived there for a while and you have equity, we can do a cash out refi on that one. Short-term loan again, 11 months, based on the value of the property. Very straightforward, as asset-based as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. And if you have enough equity, you can do a 60% cash out and use those proceeds to help you buy this other property. Okay. If you have enough equity, you could literally buy that new property with no money, right?
So 2 quick questions. So it sounds like you need to have at least 40% equity in your home.
If you're looking to do the cash out refi part, you need more than 40% to be able to access that, right? So it's going to be somebody who probably has lived in their house since pre-COVID, right? The purchase acquisition loan will be about 60% also. Okay. So if you have retirement accounts or liquidity or you have money saved up and that's not an issue, you could just do the standalone purchase loan. Okay. If you have enough equity in your home but you don't have enough cash on hand, you can do a cash out refi to kind of bridge that gap as well. Okay. And then there's another way to do it where we cross collateralize both properties and just do one loan against both of them. So it's a unique situation, but you're also looking at areas, right? Mm-hmm. So people who may be a little bit more affluent, living in not better areas, but higher price point areas that can afford that and want to be able to say, hey, to Angelo, like, yo, you recommended that I should renovate this house before I sell it. Yeah. Well, I have, $500,000 saved up. Mm-hmm. What if I went and bought this new property with a consumer bridge loan? I move out. Now we renovate this bad boy. Okay. And then we list it and sell it. Yeah. And so I see that as a huge opportunity. And I think that's where, when we started talking about these loans, my mind immediately went to, because like you said, there are people that leave money on the table, even in my community that I live in, houses that are built in 1980. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do anything to it, it's selling for X. And if you do even just a little bit, it's all about return on investment at that point in time.
The second question I have is when you go to make those interest only payments, is it like simple fixed interest off the actual money that you're borrowing?
Yes, it's a simple fixed interest only payment that is due monthly.
Okay.
Right. And so very easy to calculate. Right. Now that would be something that we could go over pretty quickly too, whenever the scenario comes up. And again, the goal is to the person who exits their current primary, 11 months should be enough time to sell that property. Right. And if whether we do the loan on that cash out refi or we don't, there's enough equity then to then put some money in their pocket. And now they have a resulting 60% value loan on their new existing property. Once they get that old property out of the way, going to a bank and getting a 30-year fixed rate loan on a property you own where you only owe 60%. I mean, you can get 70, 75, 80 and do the cash outside of it as well because you don't have that debt load of the other one, right? It's already sold. So we're excited about that, right? We referred out a bunch of them last year. And of course, the minute that you get your license and get excited about it and all that kind of stuff, we haven't received a call about it, but we got to do a better job promoting it. But we're excited about it because I think it's a good product to offer. It's also a great way to talk to folks about something other than investment financing.
I was kind of thinking about it. I had called you a couple of months ago. I went to this particular property in Long Beach. It was a condo. And I saw a lot of value in it, but it needed flooring and new paint and fixtures and whatnot. Have you ever seen a homeowner that owns a home come to you or go to a hard money person and say, hey, I want a bridge loan because I saw a great opportunity. I want to flip it.
Right.
Or I'm thinking about downsizing or upsizing, and I think this is a great opportunity, and I want to acquire it, fix it up, and then move into it. Have you seen any of that happen?
So that request comes through. So there's two delineations of what you're saying, right? So one would be, can I use the equity in my owner-occupied loan to cash out for an investment, right? It's not necessarily a gray area. That would technically be doable if you can verify that the cash out is from the owner-occupied side being used for a business purpose. We don't really get involved with that because it's just not something that our investors want to do a loan against a primary residence. If, let's say, same situation, but they want to upleg and they want to renovate their new home prior to moving into it, like the bridge loan can be a good space for that, right? Meaning if it is going to be an owner-occupied, we can help them with 60% down. Now they have 11 months to get the project upgraded and all that kind of stuff. Then they can move in, then they can refi, then they can sell. So the goal would be, on one hand, yes, we could totally help with that if it's an upleg transaction where they want to get to a new place. The other side, like we just steer clear. There are some people out there that do owner-occupied cash outs for business purpose, but it's just not something that we're too keen on at that from a business model on our side. So hopefully that answers that. Yeah.
No, do it.
Yeah. So yeah, we're really excited about that. I mean, it's something in addition to our traditional private money stuff that we do. Lately, we've been doing quite a bit of commercial bridge loans. We're excited about that. I mean, ultimately, multifamily, industrial space, small office space. So you get, in an SBA world, really aggressive and attractive financing for small business owners. Not everybody fits into that bucket, though, right? Not everybody is buying a property that kind of fits into that bucket. And then everything else kind of falls a little bit below that, right? You're not getting 90, 95% on a multifamily property. So a bridge loan is a great way to buy rental property income, whether it's 1 to 4 or multifamily. But yeah, so that's kind of our stuff. I mean, what kind of questions do you have about that side of the business?
I think you answered the bridge loan kind of scenario perfectly. The other one I'm very interested in. Now let's go to the flippers that you do work with that actually come to you consistently. Can you help paint me and the audience a picture of they come to you, they're flipping homes, what are the terms looking like? What kind of goes into that part of the business?
Yeah, so that side of the business is really fast paced. That's the part that I particularly enjoy about it. Our average funding timelines on those deals average, right? So whether we're needed to or not, it's 13 days on the residential side.
Wow.
And so that's the last time I audited it. I'm sure it's a little bit off that number since then, but to effectively call it 2 weeks, right? So those are the people who, hey, I want to write an offer that is similar to all cash. And I would argue that most all cash investors are probably using some sort of private loan to close, right? So I don't know how to verify that fact because you don't ever really see the purchase contract. You can only see the recorded instruments and stuff like that. But a lot of investors will, quote unquote, write an all cash offer. We don't advise them to do that. We advise them to write with a private money loan just so people know that the loan documents are coming.
Well, I've worked with some wholesalers in the past, and they use lines of credit, which is essentially like cash.
Yeah.
But it's not their money. They're getting it from another source.
Yeah, but if it was my line of credit, then it is cash to me, right? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, there's a whole industry of private lending that's out there. And so just by nature of that, though, our goal is to mimic an all-cash timeline as much as possible. And so the kind of example that maybe I gave when I was doing that speech is like, if I had $1 million today and I wanted to buy a house down here in Irvine and it was a fix and flip deal and I wrote an offer all cash, I'm still going to do an inspection.
Yeah.
I'm still going to have my general contractor go there. I'm still going to make sure the title is clean. I'm still going to have to get insurance on the property, right? So all of those things, you still need to get a preliminary title report. That takes 2, 3, 4 days sometimes. All of the stuff that naturally happens in an all cash transaction will probably push, if you're serious and you really are all cash, your timeline to 5, 7, 10 days, right?
Yeah.
So if we can close with a private money loan in 10 days, in 14 days, it's a very similar timeline.
Okay.
So the one thing in the battle that we have is most of the time, real estate agents see that the fact that the offer is written with some sort of loan. First question they ask is, are there any loan contingencies? My answer is, I'm not going to sign off on any contingencies or not contingencies, but let me just tell you about our process. Yeah. The client has to determine that, right? They got to say, hey, I'm going to write this offer with no contingencies. We need access to the property so we can do what's called an after repair value appraisal, right? We're selling a loan to our investors. We want to make sure we get that third party valuation. But as you know and I know, running comps is not very difficult if we do it enough. Yeah. And so we can get a good idea of where value will be on day one, probably before that offer is written.
Exactly.
And so we can hone in on our loan amount, and the appraisal is more of like a confirming factor there. Okay. So we just need access to the property. There's no appraisal contingency. And aside from, let's say, any major title issues or the house falling down because the pictures are really good, but the property is really not, we don't have any conditions on or contingencies on that side of it.
Okay.
So try to mimic an all-cash timeline. Try to mimic an all-cash kind of scenario when you're talking about contingencies. But how it kind of comes to fruition, we have the ability to like look at deals ahead of time. I got a call on my way over here from a client that is looking at 2 properties over the weekend.
Okay.
Right? So he hasn't wrote his offer. He hasn't put eyes on it. So this afternoon, we're going to sit down. We're going to run comps. We're going to look at the market. We're going to do all that kind of stuff. He's going to go into that walkthrough and say, if I get my purchase price up to X, I'm going to make a certain amount of money, all things considered, right? Yeah. The project has to go. And it's the client's job to kind of figure out if their estimate for rehab work is accurate. Yeah. If there's any unknown things when they go walk the property, it kind of affects what they offer. But they will know ahead of time kind of where the loan's going to land. Okay. Not the flyer. Not the, hey, this is what we do. Yeah. Not the, oh, we offer you 95% loan to cost, and then you get the loan through the process, and it's like all the way down to 75 because the deal doesn't make sense. Yeah. No, that's kind of what's different about working with a smaller business than some of the bigger box lenders. And my goal, and it's selfish, 100% selfish, I like to sleep at night, is to try to hit that loan amount on day one. That doesn't change. I don't like having order disclosures. Yeah. I don't like having to reorder disclosures because the loan amount changes. Mm-hmm. It's purely selfish. The cleaner the paperwork, the easier it is for everybody. Yeah. And so we want to hit that loan amount on day one. From a structure standpoint, we're not the most aggressive in the space. Okay. We're very vocal about that. My business partner and I talk all the time about how we don't necessarily agree with where the market has gone and how aggressive it has been because it hasn't been related to pricing. Mm-hmm. So what has happened over the last 10 years is loan to values have gone up and interest rate has gone down, which the risk return profile kind of gets skewed a little bit. Yeah. Now, the lenders that have come into the market have so much money that it's not a problem for them whatsoever. But for us and the people that we want to work with, we want people that have relatively strong liquidity. Yeah. We usually ask for about 20% down. We allow for junior financing, which is a little bit different than some of the bigger box companies. Mm-hmm. So a lot of investors in the space will have private individuals behind them that will help them with the down payment or the renovation costs or a combination of both. And we feel that it's fine in that situation. And it's probably preferable for that junior lender or that second position lender to record a deed of trust, to be notified or referenced on the insurance policy called secured and insured against the property.
Okay.
Right? So we're okay with those kind of things, even though we're a little bit not as aggressive as some of the big bucks. But 80% loan to purchase is typically where we like to stay.
Okay.
If they're looking for a fund control or a purchase plus rehab loan, we can go up to 80% of the purchase plus 100% of the renovation budget.
Nice.
There's a few back end metrics there.
That was my next question. That's what I was primarily interested in. So when you give funding, you're accounting for the acquisition of the property and the estimated rehab costs.
Correct.
Okay.
So in the purchase plus rehab loan structure, yes. And so what ends up happening is we'll fund the entire loan amount, 80% of the purchase plus 100% of your rehab. We want that combined loan amount to not exceed 65-ish% of the after repaired value.
Okay.
So, and then we're not big believers in funding six-figure renovations.
Okay.
The $150,000, $250,000, $300,000 renovations. Yeah. That just puts our loan exposure exceeding the purchase price, right? Like there are lenders out there that will go to like 125% of the purchase price. My issue with that is if you don't do any work to it, now I'm over levered.
Yeah.
And like it becomes a very messy situation. So we like on the purchase plus rehab, we like relatively cosmetic stuff, but we'll fund the entire loan amount once the deal closes. Let's say it's a $70,000 budget. That $70,000 goes into a suspense account or a third-party holding company account, like our loan servicer will hold that. So the client can see that there's $70 in that suspense account when they're making their payments on a monthly basis.
And that account is what does the draw payments to the contractors?
So we do the draw payments to the client, and the client pays the contractors.
Gotcha.
But yeah, and everything is based on a percentage completion.
Okay.
So back in the day, there used to be something called like initial draws, where we would provide like a 10 or 20% initial draw to get the project started. Title got a little bit tighter on that because they wanted to make sure that the likelihood of mechanics liens were not really there. Because if I wire you 20% today and you don't pay your guys, like for whatever reason, that could be a mechanic lien on day one.
Yeah.
So we don't do an initial draw. What we do is based on percentage completion. We'll have a third-party company. The day you order a draw, we'll order an inspection. And when you submit the loan to us, you're submitting to us a line item renovation bid. It can be from a general contractor. If you're managing a bunch of subs, it can be from you. But what we want to see on that bid is like very granular detail. So it's not kitchen, $25,000. It's like kitchen header and then cabinets, $6,500, countertops, $1,500, flooring, fixtures, appliances if you want to get there, right? So that when the inspector goes out to the property and inspects that kitchen, you don't have to have the kitchen 100% complete, nor do you have to have the inspector saying, if it was a total line item of $15,000, oh, you're only 20% complete. And you're like, no, I'm not, I'm 50, right? So we give percentage completion for each line item, and then that total throughout the entire house is what we release to you at that point in time.
And so you need to find a contractor that's willing to do a little bit of work to get started and then get paid.
Yeah.
Not taking an initial payment.
Well, so yes and no, right? If you're able to do that, I don't know if there are any contractors out there that will do that. But in the purchase plus renovation type of loan, I always recommend having some float money. I call it float money. It's not a technical term, but like have some money to get the project started.
Out of your own, not from the payment that you guys are reserving.
Right.
Account. Okay, gotcha.
Right. So you can put a deposit down with your general contractor, and then you can get that project started. And then once you get your first release, you kind of get some of your money back, or it's worked into that, right? Because the one thing I'll say, no matter who you're working with that has a fund control, that's a learning process.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to think you're 40% complete. And because of the way the numbers on the bid total up, it's 28% or 30%. So there's always that variance.
Yeah.
But that goes back to like who you're working with as a lender, right?
Okay.
Because if I was in the business of writing you a loan that left you no money after we funded, I'm not doing my job, right? And so ultimately what we want to do is kind of take a look at the whole picture and really understand like where you are from a liquidity standpoint. And if you can do it, fantastic. And I never want to fund a loan that puts you in a bad spot on day one.
Okay.
Right? I don't want to fund a loan that puts you in a bad spot on day 90, 120.
Yeah.
But there's some irresponsible lending going on out there where, people don't have money to start projects. And it's just risky. It's a chase to get capital out. And that's, there's a short end game in those kind of things.
And when you're working with flippers that bring you deals and they're requesting money from you, do you guys do your own like underwriting value and exit and all that?
Yeah. So we do everything in-house, 100%. Everything from initial loan application all the way through post-closing. We draw our own loan documents. We have our own investors. All of that kind of stuff. And so throughout the process, there's standard needs lists that you need to get a file submitted. There's standard property specific items, purchase contract, prelim, escrow, rehab bid, the appraisal in order to get your property or your loan submitted to underwriting. Then underwriting happens, then we have prior to doc conditions, and then we kind of get it rolling. Since it's asset based though, one of the misconceptions is like it's as much documentation as a bank, but no, it's really not. It's like an app, 2 months of bank statements, driver's license, entity docs. Okay. It's very basic information because we're mainly focused on the asset.
Gotcha.
And we're also focused on like, can you pull the project off, and do you show us on paper that you can? And if you don't, like how are we going to do it? Right? Oh, there's another investor I'm working with. Okay, cool. Like, let's figure out how we can document that, right?
How do you all protect your investment in the property? Do you have to add yourself to title or a mechanical lien? How does that work?
No, so we just hold a first position on the deed of trust as the lender, right? Gotcha. So, and that's our beneficiaries or our investors will do that. So we are, and then we're also getting title insurance, lender's policy, and we are also referenced or the mortgagee and additionally insured on the insurance policy. So it's a lot similar in that sense from the mechanics to a traditional loan. It's just the steps to get there are like very much truncated, yeah.
And if someone doesn't honor their agreement with you all sounds like it's pretty easy for you to take back possession of property. And
not in California, it's not.
No? Okay.
No. So, and I say that half-wittingly because we're not in the business of trying to do that. But ultimately speaking, we want loans for performing borrowers, right? That's kind of where we are. And so we haven't really had to go through the foreclosure process too many times. We've had a few deals that have gone to notice of default, notice of sale, but they were cured. But there's a process in California. You got to file a notice of default after the second missed payment. You got to wait a certain period of time before you can file a notice of sale. You got to publish it in a public publication, so on and so forth. And but that's not the goal. You know, the goal is to try and set it up early on so that you and I can do this multiple times. That's where nobody's getting rich off of one deal. Yeah. So if we can do 20 over the next 5 years, that's better for both of us. You're doing well, I'm doing well, and that's kind of where we sit on that front.
When you run into that situation, has it been with people that have over leveraged their budget or contracting, contractors not showing up or the market shifted?
So it's a little combination of both. I think sometimes people get into a situation where they bite off more than they can chew. Yeah. Maybe taking on a bigger project than what they are accustomed to, and like maybe doing 3 of them at a time. Oh, wow. Right? 3 big projects, going from a $500,000 purchase price to a 1.2 and buying 3 1.2s. The other part is timeline. Material cost, labor. Timeline's a huge one. You work in certain cities are a lot easier to renovate, and then you work in certain cities that aren't. And so if you go into LA and you're trying to do a historical home, that's going to be a lot different than going out to Riverside and doing a cosmetic flip, right? Exactly. And I think people have the best intentions to try and get everything done the way that they want and the way that they need, but maybe whether it's naivete or it's just what they don't know, they sometimes run into trouble there. Okay. But right now, there's also the other side of it that people are genuinely over leveraging their positions. There's not leaving enough room or margin for error. If you get an 85% loan to cost loan, you don't really need much to go wrong to make that deal not profitable. Yeah. You go a couple extra months, then what your initial plan is, property prices pull back 2 to 5%. Yep. You're kind of in that position where you're kind of looking at a net negative deal, and there's only so many people out there that can absorb negative deals. Yeah. So
I think that kind of got me through the middle part. So I understand the beginning, the middle. What's the end of this look like? Like, I guess the work gets wrapped up, the house gets listed, it sells. What's that part? How's that play out?
So the fund control acts as in that structure, right? We don't do all of our loans don't have a fund control. If somebody wants to manage the fund themselves, then we just do like a straight 80% loan to purchase loan. But in the fund control structure, the idea is that once the work is completed, then that account, the last draw is ordered, and then that account is zeroed out, right? And then from that point in time, you just have your principal mortgage amount. Since it's an interest-only loan, that doesn't change. You list the property with your real estate agent or by yourself if you are an agent, or you hold the open house. Typically, our fix and flip loans are going to be 12 months long. No prepayment penalties. If you can do it faster, fantastic. And then you go and list the property, get it marketed, ready for sale, and sell it. And when escrow opens, they order a payoff demand from us and the loan servicer. Gotcha. And it kind of happens like a traditional sale would happen. Yeah, and that's it. Then that can.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very interesting scenario. I've never been through the process of like flipping homes. Like I've bought bank-owned properties and to hold as rentals. So I guess I have kind of gone through the flipping process, but I never have utilized hard money and had to pay a hard money lender back.
Right.
So that's why I was kind of mostly interested in it, was just getting educated on it, just in case I ever come across someone that needs the information.
Yeah, and it's not as like a shady situation. Yeah. It's not like I always make the joke, Uncle Guido's doesn't have a baseball bat in his trunk. Can you pay? There are official mortgage statements. There's a borrower portal that people will log into to see when their payment's due. Yeah. There's an ACH form that pulls the payment on whatever date between the 1st and the 10th. There's like systems involved that like we want our loans to perform. Mm-hmm. Our interest is not owning the property, nor our investors, because that's who would end up having it. Their interest is the passive income that they can get by quote unquote being the bank, right? Earning a relatively strong rate of return on their investment secured against a real asset, which is real estate. That's the protection. Yeah. But there's a lot of speculation that goes into that investment because we're banking on the client to add value. And if they don't add value, then our loan becomes riskier. And so that's where all the protections kind of come into play. But mortgage statements to see what you're doing, rehab draw reconciliation to get the report to show you what you have left versus what you've already done, the report that the inspector guy goes out and shows to say, hey, this is what we're accounting for, an opportunity to advocate for yourself if you disagree with something. It's not a mob mentality, right? Yeah.
Have you do you find yourself having to vet the client just to make sure you want to work with them?
Yeah, we do that through conversation. Okay. We do that through conversation. And then really the best part about it too is real estate's a story business. Mm-hmm. The transaction has a real, like an arc, it's like a cinematic arc. Here's my plan. This is how I'm going to get there. This is what I'm going to do. Yeah. This is how it's going to end. Okay. Everything else has to kind of align with that. And our underwriting process and kind of the natural loan process will kind of do a quick heat check on whether or not it will. So if you tell me you have great credit and then your credit report comes back at 600, I don't really care that it's 600. I care that you lied about me having great credit. That's the problem. Yeah. If you tell me you have $500,000 in the bank and then you send me fake bank statements, like that's a problem, right? It's happened. Yeah. And so ultimately speaking, the conversation and the rapport that you build is just going to set the table. Okay. The documentation part should be the easy part. And so there are some deals that are quote unquote hairier. The more we talk about that early in the process, the better we have an opportunity to digest it. Gotcha. Right? And so vetting them out is very straightforward, though, when you're talking about asset-based. We'll look at a credit report. We don't have a minimum credit score. We'll look at bank statements, see what liquidity is. We'll look at retirement accounts if you want. Okay. Ultimately, can you afford the loan? If you can afford the loan, then let's rock and roll.
So it sounds like it's not like a syndicate where you're having to be an accredited investor or buyer. You're more so looking just what they have on paper. Yeah. Okay.
So our investors on our investor sides are typically accredited investors. Okay. That's who we work with.
Gotcha.
But on the buying side, no. It's more so about, can you put the skin in the game that is being required? And do you have the money to make monthly payments and renovate the property? Okay. Or see the renovation through if we have a fund control. So it's very plain vanilla. It's not rocket science.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, bro. So, but yeah.
Did you have like any more questions for me?
I mean, your areas of focus, is it price point? Is it neighborhoods? Is it what kind of gets you excited about being in this business right now?
Over the 10 years, I'll be in real estate 10 years in August. I've tried to touch every box and, every corner, right? So I do go to like expensive properties. I go to cheap properties. I go to different cities, different counties, because I want to be like more of a well-rounded agent. I'm not necessarily like what's considered to be a luxury agent.
Okay.
I think I've done some higher end deals. Whether or not I break into that sector, it is what it is.
Yeah.
If it happens, great. But I feel like at the end of the day, I want to be able to connect and resonate with anyone that I'm sitting down with, whether it be someone that has a $2, $5, $10 million house or somebody that's a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
Shopping in Long Beach or Compton for a $300,000 condo. I don't want to feel like when they're sitting across from me that I think I'm better than them.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. And, over the years, I've learned to just, the deals that are going to be out there for me are going to be for me. Learning not to, chase people and being confident in my ability and who I am. So I know that I'm not going to be, everyone's cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned to, over the years, also, have higher standards for the clients I want to work with. But I would say that I have kind of shifted or pivoted my focus more towards, and I'm in Long Beach, so it's different, right? So I am in a lower kind of cost, like coastal area. Obviously, my standards would probably be different. Like I was in Santa Monica or Venice, but I found that in Long Beach, if I divert my attention to in between $600,000, which could be like a 2-bedroom starter home, to maybe like $850,000, $900,000, I found that's a little bit more realistic because I feel like there's more of those people participating in real estate because they're very sensitive to interest rates and also the affordability of buying a home. I hear that people shopping over $1 million or 1.1. Yeah, they probably have like more means, but they're also going to be sensitive to interest rates and pricing. But those are probably people that already own real estate, maybe kind of trading up to a bigger home, or they have investment properties already. So I found that as the market changed and it slowed down and not as many people had an appetite to buy, I started even changing the areas where I would want to do open houses because I'm trying to meet people that actually want to transact.
Yes.
I mean, anybody can go to Newport Beach or Beverly Hills and want to go hold open a $5, $10, $15, $20 million house, but what's in it for me?
Right.
And are those people going to want to work with me? So, I mean, it has great exposure. I go preview properties out in LA.
Of course.
But it's just because I want to immerse myself in real estate. I want to see stuff. I think the highest home I've ever been in was like $120 million. But just being able to say, hey, I've been in a house like that. This is what this type of property looks like. It was a spec home, ground up, new construction. But, also I feel comfortable going into a 2-bedroom house that's from 1920 in Long Beach.
I think one thing we talk about on the loan side is like we can't really control the size of the loan that comes in, right? And like I have a big believer that like I always think about relationships as like if my motivation is the person in front of me, it's going to come through pretty quickly, right? Like I want to treat everybody the way that I would want to be treated. I want to give them the advice if they're asking for it, that I would want to be given. I would want I would want somebody in my position to look after my interests, no matter what the loan amount size is, no matter what it is, because
feel important.
They want to feel important. They are important. But also more. I always think about it as like 2, 3, 4 levels removed from that person, right? Like I always look at it going, if I'm treating this person right, they're going to tell people that I'm treating them right. That's the reputation that I want. Because you never know who they know, who they know, who they know.
Exactly.
And that third level might be the person that does 20 deals a year. Might not. Is it likely? I have no idea. It's not the point, though. The point is just treat people and treat the deals as if they're their own important thing because they're very important to the people involved. And if it becomes not important to you, you're not doing a service to your client.
I found in my market, when you start kind of getting over 1.5 to closer to 2, that market kind of moves a little bit slower. So I found that, people are actually actively trying to participate in real estate are kind of in that 6 to 900. I think in Long Beach, our median home price is about $825, $850. But if you go to the South Bay and El Segundo, that could easily go up to 1.2, 1.3. So
it's wild.
It just depends on where you're kind of finding yourself working at.
Well, no, man, I appreciate it. I really do. I'm glad that we had an opportunity to do this. I do. I know it was a little bit of a trek to get up here for a lot of different reasons, but thanks, Angelo, for coming out.
Thank you.
Find Angelo out on social media, and then you know where you guys can find us. So appreciate it, man.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
All right.